All right, let's dive into one of the most fascinating, I guess, groups or collectives online.
Collectives is a good word, I think.
Yeah, and that would be anonymous. And we're going way beyond just like, the headlines or the Guy Fawkes mask and like really try to unpack what makes this whole thing tick.
It is a puzzle. It really is a group that's everywhere and nowhere all at the same time, and they're fighting for causes that are
Yeah, not always black and white.
exactly. And that's what I think makes this deep dive so interesting. We're going to be exploring how a group can be so powerful, seemingly, without any leadership, and if that's even possible, and then also whether a collective like this can actually be a force for good in our digital world.
A force for good. That's a big question too.
It is.
And how a 17th century British rebel became their mascot.
Oh, yeah, we have to talk about the mask.
We have to talk about the mask.
The Guy Fawkes mask has become like the symbol of Anonymous, but most people don't even know the story behind it.
Yeah, it's everywhere now. Protests, memes, even Halloween costumes. It's a little odd to think that a symbol of rebellion against, like, authority is actually rooted in a failed attempt to blow up British Parliament hundreds of years ago.
It all started with Guy Fawkes and the Gunpowder Plot back in 1605. He became the symbol of resistance against tyranny, and his image was later used by Alan Moore and David Lloyd in their graphic novel V for Vendetta.
Yeah.
And then in 2005, the movie came out with Hugo Weaving, and that brought the mask into like popular culture, cementing its connection to anti-establishment movements.
And so that's how the mask got popularized. But on the internet, specifically on 4chan, that's where this anonymous identity really took shape.
Yes, 4chan had this anonymous default user setting, which I think fostered this whole culture of anonymity and eventually gave birth to the collective that adopted the name and the mask.
Okay, so we've got the name, but what about like the substance of it all? One of our sources describes Anonymous as having no membership, no leadership, no fixed ideology. How does that even work?
Think of it this way, like a flash mob, but online and with global consequences. People come together briefly, united by like a shared goal, and then they disperse. There's no official membership, there's no hierarchy, there's no central command.
So it's not like joining a club or like a political party.
No, not at all.
It's more like just like a swarm reacting to something.
Exactly. This decentralized structure makes them really difficult to define or to control. There's no single point of failure, no leader to target. It's both a strength and a weakness.
That's interesting. So like a strength in that there's no one to target, but then a weakness in how can anyone be held accountable?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like they could be a powerful force for change, but also incredibly difficult to hold accountable for anything they do.
Exactly.
And this lack of accountability really comes into focus when you look at some of their like most notable actions.
Yeah.
We've got things like distributed denial of service attacks, website takedowns, leaked documents. Where do we even begin with all of this?
Well, a good place to start is the 2008 Church of Scientology incident. It's a classic example of how Anonymous responds to any attempts to control information which they view as censorship.
Right, because the church tried to suppress that video of Tom Cruise discussing Scientology and Anonymous, just unleashed this huge digital firestorm in retaliation.
Yeah, websites were bombarded with traffic protests were organized. The church's inner workings were just exposed to the entire world.
Yeah, it was intense. So it was kind of like a watershed moment because it showed that this online collective could have real-world impact.
Yes, but it also highlighted their complex and sometimes contradictory stance on information control.
How so?
Well, in 2010, they attacked an Indian cybersecurity firm that was hired to target a piracy website. So they're fighting censorship on one hand, but then defending copyright infringement on the other.
It definitely blurs the lines.
It does.
And speaking of blurred lines, the H.B. Gary incident that really just threw a wrench in trying to figure out who these guys are and what they even stand for.
Absolutely. In 2011, the CEO of this cybersecurity firm, H.B. Gary Federal, he claimed to have infiltrated Anonymous and exposed the identities of some key members.
I bet they love that.
Oh, they did not. They retaliated big time. They hacked into H.B. Gary's systems, stole a bunch of internal documents and emails, and they even wiped the CEO's personal computer.
Oh, wow.
And what they found in those emails was shocking. H.B. Gary was allegedly involved in a plot to discredit WikiLeaks.
Oh, really?
Yes, the whistleblowing platform, by planting fake documents and then exposing them as forgeries.
So we have this cybersecurity firm working with government agencies trying to sabotage a platform that's known for leaking classified information. talk about ironic. It's like something out of a movie.
It really is, and the fallout was huge. H.B. Gary Federal was basically destroyed, the CEO had to resign, and the whole incident raised these serious questions about how far some people will go to control the narrative.
And it definitely solidified Anonymous's reputation as like this force to be reckoned with. They weren't messing around anymore.
No, they were taking on these powerful institutions and winning.
Which, of course, brings us to the question that always surrounds Anonymous. Are they a force for good or for chaos?
Right.
Are they like digital Robin Hoods fighting for the little guy? Or are they cyber terrorists causing chaos and collateral damage?
It's a tough question with no easy answers. Their actions are often ethically complex. They operate in this gray area where activism and vigilantism, they're constantly shifting.
And it's just so hard to assess their overall impact or hold them accountable because they're so decentralized.
Yes, it's a double-edged sword.
We're going to delve deeper into this ethical dilemma in the next part of our deep dive.
Picking up where we left off, let's dig a bit deeper into this whole force for good or chaos thing surrounding Anonymous, because their actions always seem to spark these intense debates online.
Yeah, you've got some people calling them like digital heroes and others straight up labeling them cybercriminals. It's wild.
It really is. And unlike, your typical activist group or like a political movement, Anonymous doesn't have this super clearly defined ideology or set of principles.
Right. It's almost like a fluid network.
It is fluid.
Of individuals coming together for like a common cause and then dispersing. Just popping up whenever.
And that's what makes them so unpredictable and so interesting. One minute they're going after a child pornography ring, and then the next they're targeting some government agency because they think it's corrupt.
Right. It's almost like a hive mind, like a digital hive mind just reacting to whatever they perceive as injustice or a threat.
Exactly. But that begs the question then, like, who gets to decide what's a worthy target?
Yeah. And where's the line between legitimate protest and like straight up cybercrime?
Well, those are the million-dollar questions, and honestly, there are no easy answers. The ethical implications of what they do are just so complex.
Yeah, for sure. So one term that gets thrown around a lot with Anonymous is hacktivism.
Right.
And I think I kind of get it, but I'm not 100% sure what that means.
So hacktivism is basically using hacking techniques to promote some sort of political or social cause.
They're like digital civil disobedience.
Yeah, think of it like that. It can be something as simple as like defacing a website to something way more complex like leaking sensitive information or even messing with critical infrastructure.
So Anonymous are kind of like the poster children for this whole hacktivism thing.
You could say that. They've definitely popularized the concept and kind of pushed the boundaries of what's considered okay to do in the digital world.
But even hacktivism itself is super controversial, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Some people argue that it's like totally legit as a form of protest in this digital age, while others see it as this dangerous path to cyber terrorism.
It's definitely a slippery slope.
Yeah.
So is taking down a hate group's website activism, or is it vigilantism?
That's the gray area.
Sorry.
And it's made even more blurry by the fact that Anonymous doesn't have a central leadership structure or any sort of vetting process for its actions.
Right, so literally anyone could just claim to be acting on behalf of Anonymous.
Exactly, which makes it almost impossible to know, like, are their actions legit or are they ethical?
And it all circles back to accountability or the lack of it, right?
Yeah.
There's one example that always comes to mind. It's from one of our sources.
Mm-hmm.
It was back in 2011 when Anonymous supposedly targeted Japan's government district Kasumi Gaseki.
Mm-hmm.
But they ended up attacking a water treatment plant instead.
Oh, yeah. They got the kanji characters mixed up.
Yeah, they thought it was Kasumigara.
Oops.
It's kind of funny in a way,
Right.
but it also highlights a very serious concern.
Right. Like a simple mistake can have huge unintended consequences.
And when you're dealing with a group like Anonymous that's so decentralized, trying to figure out who's responsible is almost impossible.
Exactly. It's a good reminder that even with the best intentions, things can go wrong in the digital world and have real-world consequences.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you throw in the rapid evolution of technology and it gets even more complicated.
One of our sources made this really interesting point about how as we become more and more reliant on technology groups like Anonymous, we'll have even greater potential to disrupt and manipulate these systems.
Like messing with power grids or financial systems or even transportation networks.
Yeah, think about it. What if those systems are targeted by a group that has the technical skills and the motivation to just wreak havoc?
That's kind of terrifying. It's like something out of a dystopian sci-fi movie.
It is a possibility, though, one we can't ignore, and it raises these big questions about the future of online activism and digital freedom and the balance of power in a world that's so interconnected.
We're in uncharted territory here, and groups like Anonymous are at the forefront of it all. So where do we go from here? I mean, we've explored their origins, their iconic mask, their structure, their actions, the ethical dilemmas. But what does this all mean for the average person using the internet?
I think the biggest takeaway is that Anonymous is kind of a reflection of us. They embody both the good and the bad of the digital age.
Right, the desire for freedom and justice, but also the potential for anonymity to be used for bad.
Exactly. They force us to confront the reality that power is shifting online and the old rules just don't apply anymore.
And they challenge us to really think about the role technology plays in our lives.
Right. How can we use it to make the world a better, more just place, but also protect against its potential for harm?
It's a lot to think about, but it's a conversation we need to be having.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a feeling that Anonymous, in their own mysterious way, will continue to be a part of that conversation for a long time. You know, it's incredible how this collective that came from, the depths of the internet has not only survived, but like thrived in a world that's obsessed with like labeling and controlling everything.
It's their adaptability for sure, and their resilience is remarkable. It's almost like that mythical Hydra, you cut off one head and two more grow back.
And they never stop evolving. It's
Yeah.
not just about like those DDoS attacks or defacing websites anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, they're using social media now to like spread their messages, engage in information warfare, even messing around with cryptocurrency.
Yeah. One of our sources even mentioned how Anonymous will now publicly deny being involved in certain attacks.
Really?
Yeah, which just makes things even more confusing in terms of accountability, and it creates this whole air of mystery around what they do.
It's like they're playing this game of smoke and mirrors, and the rest of us are just left trying to figure out the rules.
Right.
But maybe that's the whole point. The real power of Anonymous is that they keep us guessing. They challenge all of our assumptions about how power works in this digital world.
Yeah, they're a constant reminder that the internet is still this Wild West where the old rules don't apply.
We've gone deep down this rabbit hole. We've talked about their beginnings, the mask, the decentralized structure, all those big actions, and the ethical questions. But I still feel like we've barely scratched the surface of this anonymous phenomenon.
And that's maybe the best way to wrap up this deep dive Anonymous, is this puzzle with no easy answers, a reflection of the complexity of our digital world.
They make us think critically, question those in power, and confront this ever-changing nature of activism and power in the 21st century.
So as you continue exploring the world of Anonymous, think about this. What does this collective, this idea, this symbol even mean to you? And how are you going to navigate this increasingly complex and interconnected world that we live in?
That's definitely something to think about. So, we've reached the end of this deep dive. But the conversation about Anonymous and the future of online activism is far from over. Thanks for joining us.